Mario Tennis. When Nintendo launched the Virtual Boy in 1995, Mario Tennis was supposed to be its flagship title, the one game that would sell the vision of 3D gaming in a portable console. But instead of revolution, players got headaches, literally. The game used a bright red monochrome display that strained the eyes, and the awkward headset design made gameplay physically uncomfortable. Even worse, Mario Tennis had no multiplayer, a strange choice for a tennis game, and was more of a tech demo than a full experience. Nintendo heavily promoted the Virtual Boy at first, but when Mario Tennis flopped alongside it, the company quickly distanced itself. Within just a year, the entire console was pulled from shelves, and Mario Tennis faded with it. But what's interesting is how Nintendo has barely acknowledged its existence ever since. No remakes, no nods in modern Mario spin-offs. It's like they want us to pretend it never happened, but the internet never forgets. NBA Elite 11. EA Sports was ready to take on 2K with a bold rebrand, NBA Elite 11. It was supposed to be the future of basketball games, with new physics and revamped controls. Instead, it became a meme before it ever hit shelves. A leaked demo featured the now infamous Jesus Bynum glitch, where Lakers center Andrew Bynum would float in a T-pose at center court. That one clip went viral, and what followed was chaos. Developers scrambled to fix issues, but it was too late. EA pulled the plug just days before launch, scrapping the entire game, and it was already printed. Some physical copies made it into circulation, turning NBA Elite 11 into a collector's item, but EA never officially released it. It was such a disaster that they canceled the entire NBA Live series for years. EA rarely speaks about Elite 11 now, but fans remember it as one of the biggest "how did this get that far" moments in gaming history. Assassin's Creed Unity. Ubisoft hyped Assassin's Creed Unity as a next-gen leap, a stunning recreation of revolutionary Paris with more realism, more NPCs, and seamless co-op. But when it launched in 2014, players got a crash course in how not to release a AAA game. Glitches weren't just common, they were disastrous. Characters had no faces, just floating eyeballs and teeth. Players fell through the ground, climbed invisible walls, and got stuck mid-mission. The chaos went viral instantly, and Unity became a meme overnight. Ubisoft had rushed it to meet an annual release cycle, and the result was a game that felt broken on arrival. They tried to patch it, even giving away DLC for free, but the damage was done. Trust in the franchise took a major hit. Ubisoft never outright disowned Unity, but it's clear they'd rather fans remember other moments than this embarrassing chapter. It was supposed to usher in a new era. Instead, it nearly ended one. Fallout 76. Fallout 76 was supposed to bring the iconic franchise online, letting players explore West Virginia together in a vast, post-apocalyptic sandbox. But what players got in 2018 was a buggy, empty, and shockingly incomplete mess. At launch, there were barely any human NPCs, quests felt lifeless, and the game was riddled with technical problems, crashing servers, disappearing loot, and enemies that teleported mid-fight. But it didn't stop there. Bethesda made it worse with a $200 collector's edition that promised a canvas bag, but shipped a cheap nylon one instead. Then, they accidentally leaked private customer data when fans tried to complain. Bethesda tried to patch things up, releasing updates and adding content over time, but the damage was already permanent. For a studio once trusted to deliver epic single-player experiences, Fallout 76 was a betrayal. Bethesda never outright buried it, but you can tell they wished that initial launch had never happened. It was the kind of PR disaster that takes years to crawl out of, if ever. Metal Gear Survive. After Hideo Kojima's dramatic exit from Konami, fans were left wondering what would become of the Metal Gear series. What they got in 2018 was Metal Gear Survive, a zombie survival spin-off that felt like a slap in the face. Stripped of Kojima's vision, the game recycled assets from Metal Gear Solid 5 and shoved them into a soulless, grind-heavy experience filled with microtransactions and bland storytelling. It didn't just disappoint, it actually angered fans. You couldn't even pause the game without an internet connection. Critics slammed it, players ignored it, and Konami? They moved on like it never existed. The game bombed commercially and critically, and since then, Konami has been almost silent on the Metal Gear franchise altogether. There's no mention of Survive in retrospectives, no follow-up, no legacy. It's as if they tried to erase it from history, and in a way, that might be the most telling part. When even the creators pretend it didn't happen, you know it was a mistake. Street Fighter V. Capcom's Street Fighter V was supposed to dominate the fighting game scene when it launched in 2016. Instead, it sparked immediate backlash for feeling more like a beta than a full release. There was no arcade mode, no proper story mode, barely any content outside of online play. And to make things worse, players had to be connected just to access the basic menus. It felt like Capcom built the game for tournaments first and everyone else second, a risky bet that didn't pay off. While core gameplay was solid, the bare-bones launch confused casual fans and frustrated longtime supporters. Reviewers called it incomplete and the player base dropped fast. Over time, Capcom added features, released updates, and eventually turned it into a respectable title. But the damage was done. That launch left a stain on what should have been a flagship moment for the franchise. Even Capcom rarely talks about the early days. It's the kind of misstep that developers learn from and quietly hope you forget. Cyberpunk 2077. No game in modern history carried more hype than Cyberpunk 2077. After The Witcher 3, fans believed CD Projekt Red could do no wrong. Trailers promised a futuristic sandbox with limitless freedom, branching paths, and next-gen visuals. But when the game launched in December 2020, that illusion shattered instantly. On consoles, it was a mess. Constant crashes, missing textures, broken AI, and bugs that turned dramatic moments into unintentional comedy. Some players couldn't even progress through the main missions. Refunds were issued, lawsuits were filed, and Sony pulled the game from the PlayStation Store, a rare move that spoke volumes. CD Projekt apologized, patched endlessly, and over time rebuilt a lot of what was promised, but those early weeks told a different story. One filled with corporate overreach and broken promises. Internally, the studio stopped talking about the original launch and pivoted all attention to the 1.5 update as the new baseline. But gamers remember, the launch of Cyberpunk 2077 is still a masterclass in how a lot of hype, when mismanaged, can come back to bite you. Diablo Immortal. Blizzard walked into BlizzCon 2018 expecting applause, and left with one of the most awkward moments in gaming history. When they announced Diablo Immortal, a mobile game spin-off, the audience went silent. Fans had been expecting Diablo 4. Instead, they got a free-to-play phone game with microtransactions. The backlash was instant, but what made it worse was Blizzard's response. One developer famously asked the booing crowd, "Do you guys not have phones?" That line became an internet punchline, symbolizing everything fans hate about corporate tone deafness. The game itself wasn't even out yet, but the damage was already done. When Diablo Immortal finally launched, it wasn't the disaster people predicted, but the monetization was aggressive, and many still saw it as a betrayal of the franchise's legacy. Blizzard has barely referenced that infamous announcement since. It's like they hope we all will just move on. But that moment, that one quote, is still burned into gaming history, and no PR campaign can patch over a live mic misstep. Aliens Colonial Marines. When Aliens Colonial Marines was first revealed, it looked like a dream come true. A first-person shooter sequel to James Cameron's iconic film, complete with tense atmosphere, squad mechanics, and xenomorphs lurking in every corner. But what actually launched in 2013 felt like a completely different game. The graphics were downgraded, the AI was embarrassingly broken, and the campaign was riddled with bugs. One typo in the code, a single misplaced letter, crippled enemy behavior, making aliens run straight into the gunfire instead of attacking. Players discovered that much of the footage shown at events was fake or pre-rendered, sparking accusations of false advertising. Lawsuits followed, and Gearbox Software quietly distanced itself from the disaster. Despite the Aliens brand, the game vanished from conversation quickly, and it's rarely mentioned in official retrospectives. For a title once hyped as a defining moment for sci-fi shooters, it instead became a case study in misleading marketing. Developers might want to forget Colonial Marines, but players, not so much. GTA The Trilogy, the definitive edition. Rockstar had one job: modernize 3 of the most beloved games in history. Instead, GTA The Trilogy, the definitive edition, became a textbook example of how not to do a remaster. Released in 2021, the collection included GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas, but instead of enhancing them, Rockstar outsourced the project to a smaller studio and relied heavily on AI upscaling. The result? Distorted character models, glitchy animations, spelling errors on signs, and rain effects so broken they made missions unplayable. Classic cheat codes were removed, soundtracks were gutted, and the original versions were pulled from stores, angering fans even more. Memes exploded across social media. Rockstar eventually apologized and restored the old versions, but the damage was done. For a company with nearly limitless resources, this release felt careless. Rockstar barely promotes the remaster today. No updates, no marketing. It's like they buried it. And maybe that was the plan all along. When legends get mishandled, sometimes it's easier to pretend it never happened. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.